So I have this 1 1/4 inch crew tubing. It's mild steel, muffler tubing, and it's 049 wall. I was just going to show how I prep this for welding. It's just for practice welding. This is a 1 1/4 inch tube block that I bought from Paragon. Maybe it's called Paragon Machine Works. So take the 4mm hex key, put it in the tube block, tighten the tube block, I'm going to put it in the vise and take a 1/2 round file and go like this in the vise. Now I take the flat part of the half round file and go like this. So that it's flat. And now I have some emery cloth. This is 60 grit. I'm going to do this thing here. And then on the inside, I can take the 1/2 round file and put it around the emery cloth here. And then I'll wipe it with acetone. This emery cloth is really handy. I buy it on Amazon. Okay, I'm getting ready to weld some more tubing here. I'll show you my setup. I have a light to light up the welding work. I have some tubes here that are already prepped. This is for the tube block. This is my 1 1/4 inch tube block. Here's the grounding clamp, my clamp, my 1/16 7014 electrodes, slag chip and hammer. I can see now I need a wire brush. This is my Miller Dynasty 210DX. I have it set to 32 amps and I have the dig turned off. So I just need to get myself the wire brush and I'm ready to practice my pipe welding. Got my stick welding gloves that I bought on eBay for about $9 with free shipping. I feel like I'm forgetting something here. Maybe I feel that way because I'm not holding an electrode holder. Now I have everything I need. So what I do obviously is, tacks every 90 degrees. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. What I forgot was to use a shorter electrode for the tacks. because these 1/16 electrodes want to wiggle around a lot. And I don't have any short electrodes. I threw them away. So I don't know. I'm going to start digging stuff out of the garbage. I think what I'll do is I'll make it happen with the long electrode. And next time I'll remember. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's a short one. Short electrode. Maybe that's what I felt I was forgetting. Still feel like I should be holding something in my left hand. I have a really bad gap for the fit up over here, really bad, which would make it really hard to work with. I don't think I can work with that. So that was a fit up problem. I might have to break these tacks. It looks good on this side. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This gap right there, oh, look at the light might be in the way. That gap right there is enough to cause total mayhem. So the gap on this side is great. So it looks like I failed to make my tubing flat. So I'm just going to work with what I have here. I imagine that there's going to be some holes over on that side. And I think at this point, I could put the camera here like I like to do so we can see the back side of the weld. Hopefully that's lined up. Let's see if it's lined up. Okay, so I hope that's lined up. There I was able to bridge the gap by manipulating the electrode. So I was putting the electrode in my fingers, and that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to bridge the gap there. And now I need to make sure that camera's lined up again. Yep, close enough. So it's possible to bridge the gap like that. This is going nicely. that did not work. That burned a hole. So now I'm going to go into hole filling mode. What I do when I fill a hole is I build up along the edges, obviously. Okay, that's frustrating. It's just a lot easier when you get good fit up. So now it's becoming an exercise in filling holes, because what started out as the bad gap. So I'm going to put one more. I got a couple spots here that need a little bit more material. So what I'm going to do now is going to move the holes to the top. I'm going to move the holes to the 12 o'clock position. And it's becoming a matter of practicing filling holes. I'm also going to quench. I have a quenching bucket over there. Here's what we have. It is ugly. To me, there's some glimmers of hope there, but right now I'm going to be fixing this hole and this hole. And to do that, I'm going to put it in the 12 o'clock position because I'm still learning how to fix holes with stick welding. I feel comfortable fixing holes with TIG welding. The way I TIG weld, I get a lot of practice fixing holes. See about the camera being lined up here. Okay. Now I'll see about fixing that hole. I'm going to turn down the amperage. I turn down the amperage to 30 amps. 7014. I have it on AC current, so that's going to work. Now seeing about filling some holes. So that's enough heat for now. I'll show you what I did. That's what I did. Building up some material around the edges. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here for this other hole, and I'll be doing it in the vertical position. Okay, just a little bit of work. I didn't want to get greedy and overheat the workpiece. I'm inclined to quench it now. It's definitely hot enough for quenching. But let me just go ahead here and, as an experiment, see how it works if I don't quench it. I will be in the good habit of chipping off the slag. No need to shake the camera though. Trying to tell myself not to be lazy and to not weld over slag. This isn't in there very tight. Looks like I need to tighten up my clamp. And now that I have it off, I will quench it. Shake off the water. I'm going to put the worst hole in the 12 o'clock position with a tight clamp, because that was one of the problems I was having, was my clamp wasn't tight enough. So I'm going to really tighten it. Okay, that could have been tighter. I'll get myself a clean work surface. It's really dirty. It's like it has mud on it or dirt. Here's what I'm working with. That's a hole at the 12 o'clock position, and that's a hole at the 9 o'clock position. So what I'm experimenting with now is fixing a hole with 30 amps AC. The dig is turned off. I've quenched. I've removed the slag. And now I'm going to fix the hole. In the future, I would try to avoid this whole situation by not burning a hole in the first place, which I believe starts with good fit up. Okay, got plenty of material on there. I'll show you what it looks like. I see now that it has a crater in the middle. That's the hole repair with the slag still on it. And now I'm going to do this hole repair at 9 o'clock. Yeah, like I was saying, these 1/16 electrodes last forever. These are 7014s. I just picked up some 7018s on eBay for maybe $21 for a pound. And then I bought some 1/16 inch 6013 electrodes. I got 5 pounds for $18.50 with free shipping on Amazon. And those are just going to last me forever doing what I'm doing. And like I was saying in an earlier video, this tubing cost me 33 cents a foot. So what I'm doing here isn't costing me anything. Hardly. put on a lot of material there, and now I'm considering adding a little more material because I'm going to grind it down and take a look at it. So I'm going to give it a look over. And see if I want to add more material anywhere or call it good. Here's what I have. There's a hole repair. That is a hole repair. And here's the rest of the weld. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take over to the bench grinder, grind it down, and see what it looks like after these ugly welds are ground down. Here is that bead after I ground it on the workbench. See, it looks okay. And then it's got a hole, and then another hole, and then we call that like a low point. And I have every reason to believe that the material will be really thin here. This is 1 1/4 inch tubing with an 049 wall. So obviously I'm going to fill those holes, but I think it's going to be really thin material there. So let's see how that goes. So here I'm using a 4mm wrench to put it in my tube block. I made a lot of these videos. I didn't realize that I had a tube block hanging there. So that was nice. I want my clamps to be tight. I put the hole at 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. Nah, I think I'll put them there in front of the camera so you can see what's going on. And let's see how tight the clamps are. Pretty darn tight. So this material is not hot at all at this point. And like I said, I expect this to be very thin material. And I'm going to turn the settings down to like 27 amps. It's working pretty good having the dig turned off. So here's an electrode here. I'll start with a new electrode. And I think what I'll do is I'll demonstrate that thing with a finger, because these 1/16 electrodes always want to move around. I find myself going like this around the hole, and so I think I'll just do that here. So I did that a little bit, and as expected, the material was really thin, and so when I just did what I did, it actually made the hole larger. And that's on me for grounding down too much. So now I'm going to come to the top and do the same thing. Same thing on top. I had ground the material really thin. So I guess I will get it to be cooled off. I'll chip off the slag while it's cooling. Because I'm just determined to fix these holes. So much easier just to get a good fit up in the first place than to be messing with holes. Okay, I didn't want to get greedy there. I just got it lit up, put some material on there, and then got out of there before I caused a bigger problem. So now I'll do the same thing up top. Okay, not getting greedy. If I have to go back, I have to go back. So here's what that looks like. There's that hole repair with the slag still on it, and that hole repair with the slag still on it. So now the plan would be to chip off the slag, see what it looks like, and maybe go in one last time for the hole repair. This is not a very rigid setup that I have. I bought all these plates here from my old boss. It's 5/8 plate. They each weigh about 33 pounds, and I bought 18 of them for about $13 each. I was really happy with that. So yeah, I'm going to come in here and hit that again. It's got a crater in the middle. And then this one looks like... I'm not going to go back over that one. So it's just this one. And then I'll take it back to the bench grinder and then see how I did with the hole repair. Well, that's certainly enough material. And I'll take another look here to see if there's any other low points. Okay, there's a low point here. So what I'm going to do now is go back and visit the low points, and I'm going to grind it down and see if I can get a perfect appearance when I'm all done. The low point is at 6 o'clock. I couldn't see very well. I'm not saying that as an excuse, because there's a light here, and so I just saw where I wanted to weld, and I couldn't see where I was welding, but I could see the electrode and where it was going. So let's have a look what we have here before it goes to the bench grinder. I'm hoping to grind this down and get a perfect weld. This was my 6 o'clock work here. This is what I'm looking for all around. So I'll take that to the bench grinder and see what it looks like. Hopefully it'll be good. So I'm going to have to go over it again. I got on it with the bench grinder, the stone wheel, and then I got out my flap disc, and I've got low points. And I've made the wall thinner yet. It started out as 049, now it's thinner yet, so I'm going to quench it, and I'm going to hit those low points. And I won't stop until it is, until it's good, you know, until the appearance is good. So I'm going to orient the low. The low spots are kind of all in one area, and I have every reason to believe that the material is really thin at that point. So I might turn down the amperage some more. These 1/16 7014 rods the amperage range says amperage range says 35 to 60 amps, and I already have it now at 27. So I guess I shouldn't turn it down anymore. At this point, I'm welding on material that's probably like 035. All right, so I've got those low points at 12 o'clock. Just get a little visit here. So filling the low points. So what happened there was it like burned a hole, keyholed, and filled all at once because the material was so thin. So I'm going to do another layer now and build up that area. Note now that I'm welding over slag. Call that good. Now I'm just going to hit another upper low. I'm going to hit another couple of low points. I can see here that the material is paper thin. So that makes it fun. So the material was paper thin and it burned a big old hole because of my excessive grinding. So that's awful. This is not going well. So now what I have going on is repairing a hole yet again. So what started out as just a tiny low spot where you could see where the material was paper thin has now become a hole. Okay, there I was building up some material around the edges. Go for a quench. Go for a cleaning and a quench. Get her all prepped up to continue the hole repair. I'll pause the video while I get that ready. So this side looks okay. And then this is absolutely horrible. Now it's become a horror show. I've even got cold welds there. So I quenched it, I cleaned it, and I'm going to fix it. So I'll put the damaged area at 12 o'clock. I made things a lot worse by grinding the material down thin. I might have been grinding on something that was like, 10 thousandths, or I don't know what it was, but it had become a lot thinner than the 049. So I'll just grab a new electrode. Try to fix this nightmare. These new electrodes have slag on the end. Okay, so I was able to build up the material a little on the sides. So I think what I'll do in the future is not grind so much, not be so aggressive about my grinding. See how hot this is. I think I might be inclined to quench this. Yeah, because here's what I'm looking at. A big hole. So let me turn on this light. Let that cool a little bit. All right, it's starting to close up. Now I know it needs to be quenched. Well, it certainly looks like a trauma victim. This has become a nightmare. This is what I'm working on. And I will fix it. But you see how I have those cold welds there, and I'm trying to build up material and just really paying the price for grinding the material down too much. So now that I've quenched it and the material is cooled, I will fix the hole. Today's the day I learned not to grind it down too much. Okay, I got a lot of material on there. I'm going to go for another quench. The nightmare continues. At this point, I wouldn't need to be welding over any slag. That would make almost an impossible situation impossible. Make sure to clean this real good, so the material that I do put on there will have good penetration. Okay, still a nightmare. And this is why we have grinders. And this is also why I'm not a professional welder. So I have just that little hole to fill. Get some more material on there. And then finish it all off with just enough grinding to make it look good. I'm going to turn up the amperage a little. That electrode was welding very cold. And it was hard to start an arc. So I can see that I had ground the material very thin over a large area, and I'm paying the price now, because as I'm trying to add more material, the problem of grinding too much is manifesting itself in me burning more holes. So this is just going to continue with the quenching and the filling. And I am going to keep on going here until I turn this very ugly situation into something that looks like this. We're going to turn this into this. And this could go on all day, couldn't it? I thought I saw light coming through from the other side, but that's not true. Okay, so that's enough heat. I thought I saw some holes over here, so I'm going to add some material there. At this point, it has so much material on it that I'm able to put more heat into it. So I'm going to keep trying to fill that hole. Keyhole, and I can see a crater developing. That looks like it may be ready for the grinder. I can also see here where it's low, where I've ground the material low. And now I'm just going to add some more material to make sure that I don't have to come back and start this whole process all over again. I'm setting myself up for a big grinding job, but I really am wanting to fix this seam and move on. Start over with some good fit up. Okay, well now it's just ridiculous. Now I certainly have enough material there. So if I can manage to grind it without over grinding it, I can finally finish this weld. So I'll take that to the grinder and get it all ready and then show you what we have. Here it is after the bench grinder as I'm taking it to the flap disc. Gonna make it look like this. This is after the flap disc. This is going very badly. I can see that I've ground it down thin again, so this whole process is just repeating itself. Nonetheless, I'll keep going down this road. The reason I say it's going badly is if you look like this, the pipe. This pipe started out 049 and see that dip in the pipe? That means that this is all thin. And I'm just going to try to build it up. Doesn't take that long to grind it down, but I'm just going to have to build all that up like that. This is a tough situation. So here I am trying to salvage this. You can see there that whole area needs to be built up. I'm welding on extremely thin muffler tubing now with 1/16 7014 electrodes. So as far as my settings go, they are at 30 amps and could be hotter, but I'm going to go with the 30 amps. What I did there is just peppered the whole area with some material to start building it up. And as expected, some of it was really thin, so there's going to be a lot of quenching here. That whole area is really thin. And so just when I went over it, like you saw, it burned that big hole. So I'm just building up that whole 1 inch by 1 inch area. Gonna probably get a quench every time. And I want it to be as clean as possible so that what does go on there will penetrate. This is where I just kind of peppered over it, adding some material. And I'm just gonna keep doing that so that it's when I'm just going over the whole area, when it starts to burn a hole, I've already moved on to fill up, add some material next to it. So here's another pass at 30 amps, trying to build up the area, get a lot of meat on there. This is a horror show. Obviously, I put on too much heat there because this whole area is too hot. Prepare yourself for the horror show. My goodness. One wonders if these 1/16 rods are bringing enough material. I've got some 7024 rods. Let's see what size they are. 3/32, that's going to work. I'm going to pull out some 3/32 inch 7024 electrodes because those have a lot of iron powder in the flux. So that might help with filling this, extreme fast fill. 7024 is extreme fast fill. So I'll start the camera again when I have the 7024 rods out. Here's my 7024 rods. I didn't know the polarity to run them on because I've never used 7024 rods. And I see that when I did a quick Google search, the guy was talking about AC. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to set it to 100 amps. 100 amps on this thin stuff, going to probably blow a big old hole. So I'll turn the camera back on. Well, no, I'll just leave it going. AC, I'm going to go 90 amps. You know, I'm going to go 75 amps. I set it to 75 amps because it seems to me that 100 amps would just blow a big old hole. So here's my 70-24 electrodes. At 3/32 inch, you got to think they're too thick for this 049 material, which has been ground down to about half that. So let's just see what happens here. I imagine it's going to burn a big old hole. But the reason I brought out the 70-24 is, like I said, is because they're extreme fast fill. This will be the first time I've ever used a 70-24 electrode. I would probably use these on material that's more like 3/32 inch or thicker. All right, we're getting somewhere. It burned a big old hole, which I don't think can ever be repaired. I think we've come to the end of the road here for this hole. So I've made a terrible mistake by bad fit up and grinding the material down too thin, and now I've got myself hosed here completely, and I'll show you. This is the failure. The 70-24 at 75 amps just blew a big old hole. I wouldn't expect that that could be repaired. You know, I guess I'm going to try to see what happens. But at this point, it's just an experiment. Since I've got the 70-24 rods out, and, you know, look at the size of this hole. Yeah. So at this point, welding practice has just become a curiosity. Since I was able to light up at 75 amps, I'm going to turn it down to 55 amps. And again, looking at the 70-24 package, 70-24 rods, 3/32 of an inch, 100 to 145 amps, and I Googled and it said AC. And right now I have it set up to 55 amps. So like I say, this is just my curiosity to see if one can fix a hole this big. Yeah, I'm done. This has gotten to the point where it's impossible. I think I don't even want to look at this anymore. I'm just going to cut it out and forget this ever happened. but I am going to learn to get good fit up and to not overdo it with the grinding. I used to work in a MIG shop, and the boss told me only grind on the weld. Don't grind the base material. You know, I was too lazy to get out my flap disc at one point. I was using a bench grinder. So this has been a failure. So I'm going to cut out this section and move on with fresh start. I lied to you. I'm curious if this can actually be fixed. So now we're way down the rabbit hole. We're going to quench, fill, quench, fill. I really find myself curious if this large of a hole, if it's even possible to fix. So I'm going to quench, weld, quench, weld. And remembering that 7024 can only be used in the flat position or horizontal fillet. I'm going to turn down the amperage more. The amperage is at 45 amps. I can't believe that didn't burn a hole. I was building up material around the edges, and 7024 really is a fast fill. So clearly this continues to be a horror show, and I'm actually thinking I can do this. Of course, in practice I would never work with a hole like that, or hopefully never get myself into that situation again. So obviously this is a good time for a quench. And I'll just chip off the slag. Yeah, 3/32, 7024 at 45 amps. You don't think you get very much penetration at that point. So now it just looks like roadkill, but let's keep it going here. See if 7024 can pull us out of an impossible situation. So here's another 7024 rod being run at the extremely low amperage of 45 amps AC. This hole is getting a little smaller. Well, this is just continuing to be a horror show. So what kind of a heat affected zone do you think that would make for? So the hole's getting smaller, which was the idea of breaking out the 7024, and let's wonder what kind of penetration I'm getting the material. We're going to find out. This here doesn't look good. So we're going to find out how this goes. I'm just going to keep this going with the quench, and I'm going to take this seriously, and I'm going to be removing the slag and cleaning it up a little between passes. Here's the quench action. Yeah, first time I've ever welded with 7024. Seems to weld very nicely. So what do I have here? I think anybody who produces something like this should be banned from welding for the rest of their life. It is just, has become my nightmare. You know I'm planning to grind it down. All right, let's get out another 7024. Get out another 7024. I got plenty of those. 3/32 inch. Now I'm inclined to increase my amperage because I have so much material there that it'll handle it. So I'm going to increase the amperage up to 65 amps. Because there's a lot of material there. That is really high amperage for what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep it going, but I wouldn't want to have the amperage any higher. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I realize this is just a freak show. Just a horror show at this point. There's a problem down there with lack of fusion. So at this point I have that size hole to fill. And you know, I like welding hot. I like this 7024 good and hot. I'm going to grab another rod. Go deeper down into this rabbit hole. Okay, it's starting to close. It's in need of a quench. Knew that was going to be hot. There's a quench. Look at that. Yeah, buddy. So this is my afternoon. The plan is to chip off the slag. I'm afraid to look inside. All right, just probably keep this old rod going. The 7024 is real nice to work with, real smooth. Yep, that's how it goes. Well, now I'm just being a pyromaniac. So the hole's closed up. Gonna quench it, grind it down, and see if I was actually able to fill that hole. Although this whole thing has become completely impractical. Because, for example, this tube here is no longer circular. It's become deformed. Alright, so I'm going to grind this down and see what it looks like. I'm very curious what this will look like when it's all ground down. I have a feeling it's going to have a hole in it. So this is where this nightmare ends, is failure. I didn't have good penetration and good fusion there in the middle, so theoretically someone more stubborn than myself could continue to mess with this, but I'm not going to. In the future, I'm going to learn to get good fit up and only grind on welds and not grind down the base material. You can still see this has a deformation there where it's all messed up. So was not able to successfully fix that big hole.